time. My next guest, someone we need to talk to right now, a brain health coach and consultant. She's the founder of the Brain Performance Center. She's a doctor. Leigh Richardson? Leigh Richardson? Am I saying that? Which one is it, Leigh or Leigh?
It's Leigh.
Leigh Richardson. Welcome to the James Show, first off. And we need to get someone with a little more expertise in here because we've been talking about some mental issues already on the show today. But there was an article in The Atlantic that caught the attention of the James Show that talks about how much Americans have stopped hanging out over the last 20 years or so. Why have Americans suddenly stopped hanging out?
Well, it's a really big deal. Back in May of 23, the Surgeon General, Dr. Murthy, declared loneliness a public health concern. And I think, COVID certainly played into that. We were forced to work from home. We were forced to go to school from home. We were isolated, and we really developed a fear about interacting with others. So I think that, we've just kind of become disconnected from each other.
And what's weird in the age of social media, how we are less social physically. Men have reduced their average hours of face-to-face socializing by about 30% in the last 20 years. For unmarried Americans, 35%. For teenagers, 45%. Those are the ones who should be social the most.
Absolutely. And those are the ones that probably are the most dependent upon social media as the way that they connect.
So what are some of the problems that you see when these young kids, they get a little more isolated than they should? We were talking about Therians and people developing these, dissociative disorders. Is some of that because of lack of socialization?
Well, I think we forget how to communicate. I think we forget how to interact. When we are getting most of our interaction through a screen and we're clicking on something and we're waiting for an immediate response. And then if we don't get it, we feel rejected. We feel that creates frustration and anger. And I think that, it's very hard to show somebody kindness over a screen, whereas a personal interaction, holding the door for somebody, just stopping and letting somebody or waiting. I was behind an older person at the grocery store last night, and I just thought, Leigh, you need to stop and just wait and let them walk on by. And I didn't see anybody else having that thought. So and not that I always do, but I'm glad that I was able to slow down because we've got to be able to have that connection. And when we quit doing it, it's like our learned behavior. We unlearn it. When we don't practice it, when we stop doing it, we unlearn it. Think back to during the pandemic when we didn't drive, and then when everybody got back out on the streets, all the road rage we had, it was awful.
So at the Brain Performance Center, how do y'all tell people to get back on the horse, Leigh? What advice do you give them to get re-socialized?
Well, I think that it all starts with having conversations. And conversation is where it starts. Instead of texting somebody, pick up the phone and call them. Instead of opting out to be there in person, be there in person. Because loneliness is chronic, and loneliness can lead to physical disease. And so I coach everybody, if you need somebody to talk to and you don't have someone in your family, you don't have a friend, you don't have a pastor, get professional help, get a counselor, get a coach, reach out and find a way to get connected. And the thing that I encourage parents to do, because, when our children, we're modeling behavior all the time. And that was the hardest part for me about being a parent was, oh my gosh, what I'm doing, everybody's watching. So as a parent, get more involved socially, get more involved personally, get engaged, take your level of engagement up a notch. Because if your kids see you do that, they'll be more inclined to do it.
This is Leigh Richardson from the Brain Performance Center here in Dallas. Thank you very much.